company rejects your application. A person does not want a second date. A friend stops inviting you. And suddenly, your mind does something unfair. It takes one person's decision and turns it into a complete biography of you. You are not interesting. You are not talented. You are not attractive. You are not wanted. Rejection is an event, but the mind often experiences it as an identity. That is why it can hurt far beyond the actual situation. You are not only losing an opportunity, you may also be losing the version of yourself that existed inside that opportunity. The job was going to prove that you were capable. The relationship was going to prove that you were desirable. The friendship was going to prove that you belonged. So when the door closes, it does not feel like one door. It feels like evidence against your entire future. And rejection becomes even more painful when it touches an older wound. Imagine that, growing up, you were frequently compared to other people. Maybe affection was inconsistent. Maybe you were bullied. Maybe you were only praised when you achieved something. You may have developed a private courtroom inside your mind. Every rejection becomes a new witness for the prosecution. The unanswered message takes the stand. The failed interview presents evidence. The relationship ending becomes the final argument. And you are both the accused and the judge. But this courtroom has a serious problem. It ignores context. Maybe the employer chose someone with different experience. Maybe the person you liked was emotionally unavailable. Maybe your friend is dealing with something you do not know about. Maybe you were simply incompatible. None of these explanations erase the disappointment. But disappointment and worthlessness are not the same experience. The difficulty is that rejection creates uncertainty, and the brain dislikes uncertainty. So it chooses a painful explanation, because painful certainty can feel safer than not knowing. It happened because I am not enough. At least that answer feels complete. But it is not necessarily accurate. Here is another uncomfortable truth. Sometimes rejection does contain feedback. Maybe you were unprepared. Maybe your behavior pushed someone away. Maybe your skills need improvement. Self-respect does not mean pretending you are perfect. It means being able to examine your behavior without treating yourself like a defective human being. You can say, "I handled that badly," without saying, "I ruin everything." You can say, "I need more experience," without saying, "I am a failure." You can say, "They did not choose me," without saying, "Nobody ever will." Language matters, because the mind builds identity out of repeated sentences. And be careful what you do immediately after rejection. That is often when people begin negotiating against themselves. They send another message. They offer more. They lower a boundary. They try to prove the other person made a mistake. This reaction is understandable. You want relief. You want the situation reversed so you do not have to feel what it seems to say about you. But chasing acceptance from the source of rejection can deepen the wound. Now, instead of processing one painful answer, you repeatedly volunteer to hear it again. Sometimes dignity looks like leaving the question unanswered. Not because you do not care, because you care enough about yourself not to beg for a place where you were not welcomed. That does not mean becoming emotionally detached. Rejection is allowed to hurt. You can cry. You can feel embarrassed. You can need time. The goal is not to become immune. A person who cannot feel rejection may also struggle to feel connection. The goal is to stop turning pain into prophecy. One rejection cannot tell you who will love you. One failed interview cannot measure your career. One excluded invitation cannot define your place in the world. Rejection has a narrow field of vision. It can only describe what happened in one moment, between particular people, under particular conditions. It cannot see the rest of your life. So when rejection speaks in absolute language, challenge it. When it says, "You will always be unwanted," ask, "How could this moment possibly know that?" When it says, "You are not enough," ask, "Not enough for whom and for what?" Those questions create space. And sometimes, Space is what keeps a painful experience from becoming a permanent identity. You were rejected from something. You were not rejected from existence.